It actually shocks me that I got away with writing just 8 chapters of nothing but vibe. One thing that agent had said was, I'd like to see more of this romance sort of rendered onto the page. And I was like, you got it. I can make the book even gayer than it already is. Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is another vlog. The past month, I really haven't been writing much, if at all. I definitely haven't written anything in at least, I want to say, a week. I think tentatively what I want to do over the next couple days is officially lay out a new Scrivener file for Local Heavens. The manuscript is currently still with a few beta readers and it's still also with my agent. I also, sometime soon, want to reread the book because I haven't in at least a month. I have some ideas of things that I want to change for Local Heavens, I want to add, and things I want to tweak. There's a couple changes that I want to make to Act 2, some tiny stuff. I have to decide whether or not that's something I still genuinely want to do. That's the plan for Local Heavens. I'm honestly really excited to get back into that book. After having stepped away from it for so long, I feel like I'm gonna come into the project with genuinely fresh eyes. The second thing that I want to do is I actually started brainstorming a new book. Okay, full disclosure, I don't know how serious this is gonna be. I think I'm gonna start out, I'm not gonna commit to anything, okay? This is very indulgent. I'm just gonna say this is very indulgent. I cannot foresee myself writing a sequel to Local Heavens, like a true direct sequel. With that said, I had an idea for something that could exist in the Local Heavens universe. So I'm just putting that out there. And I'm really intrigued by the prospect of writing this story, but I don't want to commit to it because again, it could be a kind of a weird book. I really foresee this main character being like so different than the main character in Local Heavens. Toxic, narcissistic. I don't think I've ever really attempted to write a protagonist like this before. I'm an extremely character-driven writer. I need to really fall in love with the character voice to be able to pursue a work. I, over the past few days, have done a lot of brainstorming. I'm still in the very early stages of it, but I think what I will probably be doing over the course of this vlog, fleshing out some of those ideas for the new book while also starting an official vision for Local Heavens. I have a completely free day today, so I'm not exactly sure what I want to work on today writing wise. I'm debating whether or not I want to actually write or if I want to spend today reading. There's so many books that I want to get through. I'll quickly put on some makeup because I'm feeling a little bit tired still, even though it's almost 2 p.m. And I need to stay focused. I cannot waste the day. I don't want to say anxious, but I feel like I don't know what I want to work on, and between my fantasy book that I started brainstorming already has an outline and I already started drafting it. There's 1.5 chapters already written. Or if I should pursue this idea of writing a cyberpunk thriller that kind of takes place in the same universe as Local Heavens. I genuinely really like both ideas because I feel like I haven't worked on a manuscript since I finished Local Heavens. That was 2 months ago now, so I've gone 2 whole months without working on a book, and I know that that's fine because breaks are important, but at the same time I am getting a little bit antsy. So I'm trying not to put pressure on myself, but I am feeling a little bit pressured. I don't know, I usually don't get like this where I have more than one idea that I'm incredibly passionate about. When I get an idea and it's actually really enticing me, I know for sure that it's the one that I'm gonna buckle down and write. But I don't know, I feel like this is different because both projects are super different, will challenge me in different ways. I think part of my apprehension with going headfirst into the cyberpunk thriller idea is that it would be basically an indirect sequel of Local Heavens, and I don't know if it's a good idea to work on a sequel of a book that hasn't been sold. As I'm deciding, I'm stressed about making the wrong decision. That's kind of where I'm at. My summer plans to buckle down and write short fiction got completely derailed. I'm so not motivated with my short fiction right now, and I don't know if I should like force myself, because short fiction is something that I write when I just don't want to think about publishing, you know? I want, like, for me short fiction is like the fun stuff. I think I'm extremely excited about these novel ideas. Actually, thinking about it, I think I do want to do some reading today. I'm gonna lay out a new Scrivener file for Local Heavens for sure, because that's the most important. I need to start revisions on that very, very soon, probably this week. If not this week, then next week. So I kind of want to be prepared. I want to have the draft reread and fresh in my mind by the time that those edits come back. I think I'm also a little bit, I'm excited, but I'm also definitely a little bit nervous to go back into Local Heavens. I don't know. I do tend to look back on my old prose after months or years have passed and just been like, this is not good. But we'll see. We'll see. So I totally forgot about this, but I haven't actually gone through and taken organized notes of beta reader feedback. I've kind of like, I've had conversations with my friends who've read it, and I think I've internalized a lot of their initial feedback, but my friend Emily is still reading it. I'm actually just gonna peek into the doc. I'm curious, and also because I am starting to kind of consolidate my revision notes, I want to make sure that she hasn't said anything that is really glaring. Okay, chapter 17. This chapter was kind of cute, not gonna lie. Oh my god, okay, her chapter 18 reflections. I applaud you. It is never... She's dropping my government name in the Google Doc. I applaud you. It is never an easy task to write a smutty scene after all this built up tension and have it feel this well-deserved and well-paced. Okay, I will say one thing about this chapter. At one point in the superheated scene between the two characters, she asks whether... I take this line to mean that despite how he might want it to matter to the other character, he had a little outing with her, he knows at the end of the day, he would be the end of the I think the thing that caught me off guard is how easily she doesn't start, but she always knew that he was trying that he never thought about. Okay. Sorry, the rest of her long note I can't read because it is spoilers. She is pointing out an internal beat that is hit in this scene, and she's a little bit confused. I'm gonna make a note of that. So this isn't something that my other beta readers pointed out. I do think the beat isn't incredibly important, so super minor. It's definitely more of like a tonal thing. I think whether or not I change it probably won't have a huge bearing on the larger story, but you know, it's the details that matter. So, ooh, okay, so she does have questions about, she is confused about a world building element that I think at this point in the story, the reader should not be confused by that. So if it is confusing, this is definitely going to require a bit of a lift. I always was very concerned about chapters 11 and 12. I think this is where like the cyberpunk world building compared to the lead up to these moments, like it's intense in this moment. So there's a lot of things that I feel like I'm asking of the reader. I can understand why it's confusing, especially if the reader is like taking breaks reading the book over like a long period of time. There are a lot of details that I feel like can slip through the cracks. I feel like it's one of those things where it's just like, if some readers find it confusing, maybe it's fine. The ideal situation is that your reader isn't confused. I think actually I want to add a chapter to part 2. That's one of the notes that I made for myself. Definitely want to add a chapter in here somewhere. Okay, so she said, I know a lot technically happened in this chapter. I can't help but leave this chapter thinking about how much I love the way you're portraying the main character. Not to mention, I really get the sense that from this chapter, especially of the retroactive aspect of the narration here, like he's telling us about all this from some point in the future and looking back in hindsight. I'm gonna keep going through Emily's notes. Overall, nothing like earth-shattering, but definitely some things that I'm gonna have to talk to her about and work on, so we'll see. Revision is it's gonna be a whole thing, isn't it? Perfect timing, getting my dopamine dose when I put my roses in the morning. Living in the moment, hard to keep my focus with you and your hands on my hips. Alright, update. It's been a few days. I've just decided to start revision because I was talking to my agent. I think I'm going to be getting her feedback this week, this upcoming week. And I just kind of want to have the draft fresh in my mind by the time her feedback comes in. And then after I go through her feedback, I'm gonna get on a call with her and talk through our notes and also some of the changes that I want to make. And I was laying out the new Scrivener file for Local Heavens. I just realized how long it's been since I've actually been in this draft, and I feel like it's better for me to just get back into this character voice because I've been trying over the last like day or two and it's a little bit harder than I thought. What I'm doing tonight and tomorrow is I am writing a new chapter in part 2. I actually yesterday attempted to write this new chapter and I wrote almost 1,000 words, and then this morning I woke up and I was like, it's just not working. I was reading over what I wrote. Character voice was just completely off. It sounded like a different person. And the purpose of the scene just wasn't there. I don't think that scene was structured well. I don't think it was choreographed well. I don't think world building elements were strong enough. I don't feel like externally there was enough happening. I didn't feel like I was advancing anything important on an internal level. I wasn't really exploring the character relationship in the way that I wanted to. It was just a mess. So I knew it wasn't working. I've scrapped the whole thing, brainstormed something completely new for this chapter, and I think it is so much stronger. So that's what I'm gonna be working on tonight, and hopefully tomorrow I can get through a good chunk of it. Overall, I'm still feeling pretty good about this draft. I haven't done like a full read through of it yet. Mentioned that I started working on a new chapter that I'm inserting into part 2 of Local Heavens. So I spent all of yesterday doing that. I was working on the chapter. I've written most of it, like over half of it, I would say. I keep going back and forth about whether or not I like it. Like, I'm still really on the fence about it. What I will work on today is my fantasy, because I was reading over some of it yesterday. I really do want to continue to make progress on my fantasy project. I don't want to hyper fixate on Local Heavens all the time. I actually decided to make some world building changes to the book, not significant ones, but ones that I feel like be more interesting to focus on. So I was sort of doing a lot of reflection on what kind of stories I want to tell from a cultural perspective. I think the more interesting version of the floating house for me to write is one that kind of ties in a little bit more diasporic themes, because basically the world of the floating house is inspired by Filipino culture and a little bit of Filipino history. But I think my worst nightmare would be someone reading this book and deciding to read it as like analogous to real history. I was feeling all these different kinds of ways about how a lot of, not even diaspora writers, but a lot of BIPOC writers are put into this position where when we pull elements from our culture, we are expected to be ethnographers of that culture to a Western audience, to a white audience. I think for a lot of writers, it's just like, we want to just tell stories. And when we're writing in secondary worlds, a lot of the times we don't necessarily, if at all, want to be seen as writing some kind of like historical accounts, because at that point, we would be writing nonfiction. But then at the same time, if you are pulling from a culture, how do you do that in a way that not taking advantage of that culture? Conversation gets even more interesting when you start talking about diaspora writers. We've all had conversations about what OwnVoices means, but what does that actually mean for a diaspora writer who grew up outside of this cultural context, that it is their culture, but your experience with it is different than someone who was born and raised in that country. I was having all of these thoughts. I decided that I think the biggest change that I want to make to the world building is, I think in order for me to tell a more, I don't want to say honest, but I think this would just be easier for me to write. It would be something that is a little bit closer to my own cultural experience. As someone who kind of feels like you're straddling two different cultures, biases, how do you check your own privileges, how do you touch upon themes of alienation and feeling connected to this one culture but also feeling extremely detached from it. I feel like that is an element that might be missing from these characters, and I think at least with the main characters, I think there's an opportunity for me to bring in more of my experience. And I'm not doing this because I feel like I have to. I'm doing it because I want to, and I feel like it'll be a lot more interesting for me to tell that story. So yeah, I don't 100% agree with the idea that diaspora writers can't write about the hardships or the traumas or the experiences of their sort of heritage cultures. I don't love the policing of own voices in that way. However, I do think that there are so many opportunities to be compassionate and intentional in our storytelling, and I do think it's important for authors to constantly check themselves and at the very least ensure that what they're putting out into the world is not harmful. So anyways, yeah, that's where I'm at with The Floating House. I really want to get back into it. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I just got new beta reader feedback from Rachel. She sent me a very generous 4-page edit letter. Yeah, so I've just been like taking notes on her revision considerations, how to potentially make some changes to Act 1, and they wouldn't be huge changes. But one of the biggest points that she made, which I had already thought about, but I wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to approach it without like drastically changing the book, has to do with the main character, sort of giving him a more concrete goal in the first act. So with some of her feedback, I have started to make some notes about that. So that's not a huge thing, like it's one new scene and then it's probably going to be a little bit of line editing. One thing that she did say is that she loves the main character, and I'm really happy about that. I don't know why I just had this fear that people would not like this protagonist. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be people who don't like him, but that's fine. Basically all the characters in this book are annoying in their own way. The first thing that she mentioned was that she liked the voice. She says, he's such a lovable narrator from page 1, but I love that we get to see his tenderness as the narrative unfurls. I'm just glad that people want to root for him, you know, because I was always worried that like being in his head wouldn't be fun. It was fun for me, but I just wouldn't know if it would be fun for other people. She liked the world building, which I was actually really interested about what Rachel's thoughts on the world would be. Rachel's really the only person that I sent this book to who is much more literary leaning. I think that there are aspects of this world that are just pretty crazy, and I wanted to know, if you're not someone who reads a lot of speculative fiction as opposed to like literary fiction, like how would someone from a more literary background enjoy the speculative elements in this story? This book also has a lot of really complicated relationships, and there is, I guess, a love triangle in the book. One thing that she mentioned is that she likes both sides of that love triangle. Partner in crime attitude coupled with their banter, so addicting to read. I also love this relationship because it felt so real. Your relationship work in general is wonderful for how it renders people with complexity. These interpersonal exchanges are multifaceted, which makes them so readable. I could reread this book over and over and be sure I could learn more and more about the characters. You've steeped so much here for a reader to parse. So she has 4 main revision considerations. So her first one is about the prose. Probably a lot of moments, or at least a few moments on the line level, that are pretty convoluted. So I'm gonna go through her sort of inline comments and see which ones she pointed out. I haven't touched any line editing in weeks. She pointed out that there are some world building details that were confusing for her. And again, she's pointing out like chapter 12, which is like such a pain chapter. Everyone gets caught up on like chapter 11 and 12. Okay, her longest note is about pacing the conflict and giving the main character that concrete goal in the first act, or if not a goal than just like something that his character have a little bit more agency. So she says, I wonder what the back jacket summary would look like regarding what the issue is in this story and how the main character is trying to solve it. So she says, I do think moving a sentence or adding a sentence is all that would be needed here, just so the direction of the book is a bit clearer in that first act. Yeah, I don't even disagree. Like, it actually shocks me that I got away with writing just 8 chapters of nothing but vibe. When I tell you that for that entire first act, the main character is truly head empty, like. And then her last note was something that I'm currently already working on. This is like the new chapter that I'm trying to write, basically to expound upon one of the romantic relationships in this book. Even while I was writing the first draft, I always was concerned that it was a little bit underdeveloped. One of my main goals was to write 1 or 2 new chapters to really linger in that relationship. And that's something that she pointed out, which is kind of reassuring because it means that my revision might be on the right track. When I was querying and when I was on an agent call, not the call that I had with the agent that I signed with, but another agent, one thing that agent had said was, I'd like to see more of this romance sort of rendered onto the page. And I was like, you got it. I can make the book even gayer than it already is. Yeah, I'm just so thankful for Rachel's notes. I'm a little bit intimidated by how many revisions I need to make, but I always knew that I would have to make these changes at some point. We're in it now. We are in it now.
I heard your voice crack over the phone.
So August is my birthday month, and this year I celebrated by having my friends over, having a chill homemade dinner and hangout. I've always been pretty apathetic toward my birthdays. I'm trying to unlearn that a little bit as I've gotten older. Birthdays aren't just about you, but about celebrating your friendships and the important people who are in your life. Whenever I get together with my friends, we always laugh about how the next decade of our lives is on the horizon. Looking back on the last year, so many amazing changes have happened in my life. I moved out of my hometown, I bought my own place, I've hit writing milestones that I'd always dreamed of growing up. Another milestone I've hit is obviously my YouTube channel. This year I started a partnership with one of my favorite brands ever, Ana Luisa. I've had the opportunity to make so many videos with them, and that wouldn't have been possible without fostering a community here and without people supporting my channel. When I started my channel, I didn't imagine what it would become, which is this space for me to just be open about what it means to be a writer in this day and age. I didn't think that other people would resonate with my stories and my content, and this month, as I've been doing so much reflection, my channel is just something that I'm so grateful for, and I'm really excited that I get to collaborate again with Ana Luisa this month because it is a really special month. Working with them has just been a highlight of the whole year. You probably know that I started shopping with Ana Luisa years ago, and my pieces have held up so well since, even the ones that I've had for a really long time. I'm excited to show you guys the new pieces I got recently, starting with these gorgeous patterned earrings that I've been eyeing from their collection forever. Also got this new gold and silver heart necklace, as well as this bracelet, which pairs so well with it. What I've always loved about Ana Luisa's collection is how affordable it is for the quality that you get and how easy it is to mix and match their pieces together. I wore these new pieces for my birthday this year, and it just makes the day feel extra special. If you're interested in buying some new, affordable, long-lasting jewelry for yourself, your friends, or your family, you can click the link in the description box and get 20% off your order using my code KrisMF20 at checkout. Thanks as always to Ana Luisa for partnering with me on this video and being a part of my YouTube journey and helping me share my love for their jewelry with you guys. Okay, so just some quick updates. I got my edit letter for Local Heavens back from my agent, and over the past few days I've just been compiling her notes, cross-referencing them with my own revision plans, and a lot of really good feedback from her. And the good news is that everything that she has pointed out is stuff that I am already working on. So I'm excited to talk to her about the changes that I want to make. I do think that the changes are pretty involved, but I think that they really will make this book so much stronger. I really hope that she will be on board with them, because I don't think that it's anything too crazy, but it's definitely going to, it's not going to be like a light revision. I'm going to definitely be writing some new scenes, new chapters. It's gonna be probably a meatier book, but I am really excited. Like, I think that these changes are gonna be really good. Yeah, so I have to do a lot. So I'm just gonna end this vlog here because there's, yeah, a lot I need to do. I'm trying to kind of compile my notes in a coherent way so that I can make sure that when I actually talk, when I actually get on a call with my agent, the changes that I will be communicating will make sense to her. So I will keep you guys updated on how revision is going. And once again, a huge thank you to Ana Luisa for partnering with me on this video. If you're interested in shopping the Ana Luisa collection, you can click the link in the description box and use my code KrisMF20 for 20% off your purchase. That is all. Thank you for watching, and I hope all your writing projects are going well.